Hey guys, it's Elizabeth, and it's Sunday, December 30th, which means this is the last edition of the Vlogmas Naked Truth. And I am here with Grace Gets Gastric.
Hello.
And the first question I have to ask you is, why does every Grace that I know have such beautiful hair and know how to do their lips perfectly?
Well, thank you. Grace is actually not my real name.
See, I told you I don't know a lot of things.
No, it's a nickname that I had growing up, and it's the name I kind of been using on the internet for a very long time. And I like alliteration, so it just worked nicely with Grace Gets Gastric, and it helps just kind of keep my personal life and my online lives a little bit more separate.
I understand. So Carol Boyette's here. She says, hi, Grace.
Hello.
I don't know who that is, but hi and welcome. Do you want to tell us what your real name is, your first name, or no?
No, I keep that on the DL.
Understand. So I was saying to Grace beforehand that this edition or this series of Naked Truths have all been based on, sorry, my cat is deciding to play with the light right now because when I start talking, he needs to come over here by the video. I was saying that these are all based on suggestions of people and who people wanted to hear from. And I felt a little fortunate that most of the people that people chose were people like from my weight loss surgery class, which is almost 5 years ago. And they're people that I know personally. And there are a few people, Grace, Watch Kitty Shrink, and Joe, I knew a little bit, but who I don't know a lot about. So I'm apologizing in advance if the people who are watching are fangirls and know all these things and that I don't know. So I'm going to ask very basic questions. So 2012 Fighting Obesity is here, and Liz Leggerini. Liz, I can say your name now. So tell us just the basic first. Where do you live? How old are you? You married, single? You know, whatever you're comfortable in putting out there.
Yeah. So I have my little spiel. So I'm Grace. I'm 5'8", 28 years old. I just turned 28 in November. So I was 27 when I had VSG, which was in January 2nd, 2018. So my 1 year is coming up on Wednesday. I'm single, been, obese my entire life, and decided to do something about it. So I had the VSG a year ago, pretty much.
So that's exciting. What was your highest weight?
My highest weight recorded was 354 pounds in May of 2017, which is right. It was, right before I started or during the process of getting weight loss surgery. I'm sure I was up and down around there, but I kind of maintained for most of my adult life at like 330, I would say.
So we have a lot of people that I don't know. So these are probably people who are, the newer generation of weight loss surgery patients. We have Carol, who had VSG 5 months ago and loves watching your videos. We have Lisa Linder and Joyfulness Metamorph, and Linda Takes It Back. So awesome. I'm so glad you guys are here.
Yeah.
So have you been overweight your entire life? Is this something you've struggled with forever?
Yeah. I was definitely overweight my whole childhood. It's interesting looking back at photos. I realized I wasn't as big as I thought I was, but I definitely felt big at the time. And then, middle school, high school, I was obese. So I've been a whole lifelong fat, I guess, the lifelong fat.
Lifelong fat versus, I don't know, temporarily.
The new fat.
Temporarily fat, or after you get pregnant fat, or whatever. Yeah, me too. So, or at least I thought I was. Whether I was or I wasn't, I thought I. How did that sort of impact your life growing up?
Yeah, I mean, so my sister was also overweight, but not as much as I was. But no one else really in our lives ever has had a weight struggle. And for me, I think I just happened to find a really good group of friends pretty early on that we clicked with. And so I didn't really have a lot of bullying issues. It was never really, there was a lot of internalized stuff, but nothing that I felt overt from anyone else. But I was more or less okay with it, I guess, for most of my life. And it wasn't really until I was diagnosed with diabetes about a year before I had VSG, that I think it kind of hit me that there were, you know, consequences. And then it just kind of made me reevaluate and really think about the things that I hadn't been able to do, or like I wasn't able to do just because of my weight, like traveling, moving, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, those things that you don't realize you're sort of missing out on. Joyfulness says she's 9 months post VSG, and Carol has a question about getting out of stalls, but I'll take those questions and stuff a little bit later after we get to know you a little bit more. So, did other people in your family have diabetes? I mean, that's pretty young to be diagnosed.
Yeah, exactly. That was kind of the thing. My mom and my grandpa, her father, both have it, and they don't eat the best, but they definitely would. They're not obese, maybe overweight. So, and they got it much later in life, obviously, than I did, like in their 40s or 50s. So yeah, for me to get it this young, I remember going to like the diabetes classes, and it was just like a bunch of people in their 60s and then me. And I think that just really kind of drove it home. Like there are so many complications that you can develop, and then getting it so young to think that like you'll never, like events, it just keeps progressing. So just the fact that I got it so young really kind of freaked me out, because, it just kind of compounds as you get older.
So I follow you more on Instagram because I don't watch a whole lot of YouTube videos anymore, and I'm sure Foodie Turned Sleevey, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, because she had that same thing, right? She was diagnosed with diabetes very early, and that's what kind of led her on this path. So you were diagnosed with diabetes, and did you try had you tried other methods even before that to lose weight?
Yeah, I mean, so like the first time I went on a diet, I remember it was like 6th grade and the Atkins diet. So I definitely been familiar with diets from a pretty young age. I feel like I got to a point as an adult, where I was just kind of done with it and was just sort of like, let's just let the cards fall where they may. But I had done I'd done like the Whole30, a lot of clean eating stuff, less focused on weight loss, though that was always kind of like a hope in the back of my mind. And then once I was diagnosed, it took me about a year after my diagnosis before I really started looking into weight loss surgery. And I had started trying to, they recommend like lower carbs. So I was doing a lower carb diet, but, just like with any diet, you can stick to it for a while, but it starts to become pretty hard. And then it's easy to not think about the implications or the long-term impacts. When I was living my life fine and didn't see any of the potential complications that are arising. And I was on metformin, which is kind of like the first step. So I wasn't on insulin yet, but I was getting to a point where I was kind of on the highest dose of metformin. So if I wasn't able to kind of control the blood sugars, then that would be an issue.
Because I didn't have, shockingly, because I was like 47 when I had surgery and was 400 pounds, I didn't have any real health issues.
Mm-hmm.
But I've been reading Jason Fong's The Obesity Code right now. And it's really educating me about insulin. I am sorry, you guys, my cat is distracting me so much. Dale Cooper really likes furry blankets in a very bizarre way. He's distracting me. But I forgot to ask you a really important question. How much weight have you lost at a year post-op?
Yeah. So from surgery, I'm down 120 pounds about, give or take a couple of tenths of a pound. And from my highest weight, I think I'm like about 155, I believe.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Congratulations. That's great. So Hope is here, which is very exciting. I haven't seen you, Hope, on any of the chats. And she was my very first Naked Truth of this edition.
Right.
And Carol says she met Foodie this past week, which is awesome. Ooh. I also met her just a few months ago when I was in New York. We went out to dinner, and it was amazing. She's incredible. I love her.
She's great.
So did you go immediately from getting the diagnosis to thinking about weight loss surgery?
No, it took me a while. It took me probably about a year before, I had some kind of moment and then was just kind of done. And I think for me growing up, and even to this day, or even right before I got surgery, I didn't really know anyone who'd had surgery. And to me, it always seemed like something that older people get, because like my mom had friends who had the surgery, or had the bypass at least. And a couple of years ago, a friend from high school, who I'm not an acquaintance from high school that like I see on social media, but we don't really talk, got the sleeve and had a lot of success with it. And I think that was the first time it kind of put the thought in my head that, okay, this is something you could do, but I didn't really realize that thought until about a year after I had my diabetes diagnosis.
Now, is there typically the people that I know who had diabetes or pre-diabetes before weight loss surgery, they had RNY. Is there a reason why you had VSG?
Yeah, I was definitely looking at the RNY as an option because RNY and even the DS have a higher incidence of keeping off that diabetes or reversing the diagnosis. But mine was so new, and I was so young, and it was pretty well controlled with medication that in talking with my surgeon and with my doctor, they felt really confident that the VSG would be enough, that it wasn't to the point where simple weight loss wouldn't reverse it, because I wasn't on insulin. I hadn't had to go too far with it. If I had been farther on, I think I probably would have done the RNY. And the good thing is like if I need to revise at some point in the future because of health, the VSG does allow to either do the RNY or the DS.
Right. That's what my doctor said too, which I was kind of shocked because I was so overweight. And sometimes now I sort of wish maybe I had the RNY, but I mean, I've been pretty successful with VSG, almost 200 pounds.
Yeah.
And maintained for several years, but I still want to go further. But I mean, was your family, Liz wants to know, was your family supportive of you deciding to do surgery?
Surprisingly, yes. I mean, my weight was always kind of a thing growing up. My father is very fit. Like he runs marathons, and both my sister and I are not. And I think that was really hard for him, had some childhood shit with just all of that. And I definitely was worried about the whole like easy way out type thing. My stepmom was really thin all of her life, but as she's gotten older, she's put on some weight. And I think that has helped her to understand more about where we're coming from now that she's had to like try to struggle with weight loss. And so they were actually all very supportive and, wanting me to get healthy. So that was nice.
So we also have Wasting Down Time is here. Wow. All these names that I don't know. I need to meet you people. And Fit Mama Laura, and Nora Simpson Harris is here. She wants to know where everyone is located and how do we all know each other. And people are talking, and she said that I mentioned something about a convention during the talk with Lindsay. I'm just going to give a quick update on that, everybody in chat, because I think it's important. I'm in California. I don't know where you are if you want to say, but somewhere cold, because you always wear coats on Instagram.
I'm up in Washington State.
Okay. And yes, there are weight loss surgery conferences. Wasting Down Time lives in Tokyo. That's exciting. And we have Australia, Sacramento. Norma, I'm in Huntington Beach in Southern California. There are 2 big weight loss surgery conferences that happen every year. One is called Obesity Help, and one is put on by the Weight Loss Surgery Foundation of America. I met, most of my friends in real life now are weight loss surgery patients who I met via YouTube. So I can't tell my son, I don't know. It's hard to say. He's like, you met all your friends on the internet. Like, yeah, well, but I would really suggest, the conferences are in different places every year. I would really suggest that you try to go to one if you can, because although we commented, etc., on each other's videos, it wasn't until we met each other in person that we became friends. Have you gone to any of the conferences, Grace?
No, I haven't. I've gone to other conferences for other online communities, but not for this one. And it's definitely on my list because I from my past experiences, I do know how much that in-person connection can really like solidify the connections you've made online.
Well, I usually ask this towards the end, but it seems to make sense to ask it now, is why did you decide to go on YouTube?
Like I mentioned before, I don't really have anyone else in my life other than my sister who's struggled with weight in any kind of significant way. And, you know, like that dynamic is already a little bit complex with me losing weight and her not losing weight. And so there is a limit to how much she wants to hear about my weight loss surgery stuff. And I knew that like having a support system of some kind and people who can empathize, I mean, for all that we are very different people, you know, there is a shared experience of being fat in the world and how, you know, your experiences and the things that you live through. And so having that support system, I knew would be important to helping motivate me be successful. Because, you know, if I'm doing this extreme thing, we know that there are statistics that people regain their weight, and I expect some regain, but I obviously do not want to regain at all. So I want to do everything I can to be successful, I guess.
Have you met people in real life from YouTube yet?
Yeah. A couple people live.
Oh, Kirk. Have you met Kirk? He lives in Washington.
No, I haven't.
Kirk, yes, because these are like old people.
Yeah, I've heard his name mentioned. Does he still make YouTube videos? I know that he used to, I believe.
He doesn't. And actually, I think he moved to Portland. Not that I think of it. But the two people that I know who lived in Washington, one moved out of the country and one moved to Portland, I think.
Yeah, there's a Smilin' Shrinkin' lives near me. And so we've met up. She had some friends, some other YouTubers visiting as well. So we kind of got together, and another friend was visiting Seattle. So we just happened to be able to get coffee.
Cool. Norma actually grew up surfing in Huntington Beach. Okay. Between hours 11 and 13. I'm down there walking several times a week. Okay. So what was your pre-op plan that you had to follow before surgery?
As like the one immediately, or because I was required to do like a 6-month diet before I was qualified.
That's what I was sort of asking about. So were there requirements in terms of how much weight you lost before?
So there weren't any weight requirements in terms of how much I had to lose. And then I was so beyond qualified that there was no way I would lose too much to still qualify. So
I used to get so annoyed when I would watch those videos from
people. I know. So I lost 35 pounds pre-op doing their medically supervised diet, which was pretty simple. I mean, they wanted me to get above 150 grams of protein a day and then stay below 135 carbs, which was nice. There was no calorie restrictions. And that's something that I've realized once I had the surgery, that for all the diets that I've done, most of them have been like food restricted, not calorie restricted. And so I hadn't realized how much of a mind switch and how difficult that would kind of be for me to make that switch.
Say that again. To go from
restricting in terms of the foods I could eat. So like,
okay,
you know,
so
it's macro keto, right? Where you stay low carb,
macro based versus calorie based.
Yeah. Whereas this is, I mean, I've got macros, but I had never done a diet where I was like, I need to stay at this exact calorie range.
Okay. So the opposite. Okay.
Yeah.
And so but you know, it's so funny because I had my surgery through Kaiser and we had to go through like 16 weeks of classes that up until like the last 2 weeks, all the things that they taught you about food and eating are not relevant once you have weight loss surgery.
Right.
Okay. That's interesting. All right. And just like that, calorie restriction is not an issue immediately after weight loss surgery because you can't eat any calories.
Right.
So a year out, what is your food plan?
So my surgeon didn't really give me much guidance, to be honest, in terms of that. Like they were just stay above 80 grams of protein, and that's all they said. So my self-imposed plan is that I try to be at or below 1,000 calories, 90 grams of protein, and then I try to stay below 50 net carbs. And yeah, that's because I am still trying to lose weight. So that is what I'm trying to stick to. This past month, I haven't been super great at it with all of the treats around, but
yeah. What about working out? Do you work out or exercise?
Yeah. So I do 2 to 4 workouts a week. I do Tuesdays and Thursdays before work. I do cardio and strength training, and then those are non-negotiable. But then my weekend workouts tend to flux. So I try to do like a body pump class on Saturdays and like yoga on Sundays, if I remember.
So what have been your, I mean, you're a year, I don't know why I thought you were less than a year out, but well, because you are like a week less than, right? I mean, just a little bit less than a year out. What have been your biggest struggles so far in this year?
I think I didn't realize how much I would, like, you know that there's going to be mental stuff, but it's hard to really know how it's going to hit you.
Oh, just wait.
Yeah, I know. And then I've been watching your videos lately talking about when the real problems hit. And I'm like, oh God.
Give yourself another year and then you'll really be crazy. No.
I think I didn't realize how much I would miss being able to eat a lot. Just like from a mental perspective, or like a mental satisfaction.
That satiety. I mean, there's something about that feeling of fullness.
Yeah.
That's very comforting.
Yes. And I didn't realize how much, I mean, I knew that I was soothing with food to an extent, but I don't think I realized how much anxiety I was suppressing with that. My anxiety has been insane since surgery. And I'm sure some of that's influenced by like the weight loss hormones, but I do think a lot of it, I just hadn't realized that was one of the big things I was like masking or soothing with food. So dealing with that has been fun.
So how do you deal with it?
That's a great question. Still working that.
You're still very, I mean, this is still very new for you and you'll discover a lot of different ways, but I'm just curious how you're dealing with it now.
Yeah, I drink a lot of water. And I've been trying to work on like acknowledging feelings and sitting with my feelings. That's something
that like so sucks.
Yeah. And so that's something I've been
have to do it.
Yeah. It's just like sitting with the discomfort and just feeling it. Not fun.
Concept. Had you ever done that before you didn't have food to stuff it down with? I hadn't.
Yeah, I don't think I'd realized that's what I was doing. I mean, I kind of knew it. I just hadn't really realized how much that food was really helping that part, or not helping it, as it were.
Right. Yeah, that sitting with feelings thing. That's fun.
Yeah.
Do you experience hunger?
I think so. It's definitely very different than the kind of hunger I felt before surgery. And
like, what was it before and what is it like now? I'm so interested in how people perceive this.
Well, I think even just like, there's everything about like how I feel full feels different. And the hunger is, I think partially I'm just more aware of the mental game than I was before. Like before surgery, like if I wanted to eat, I would eat. I didn't really differentiate between mental and physical hunger. I just don't think I ever felt the need to do so.
See, that's what's so interesting is I think a lot of the people who say that I think that there are a lot of people who are really overweight who never actually experienced hunger. And so they don't know. I mean, they had a desire to eat, but that's very different than the physical sensation of actual hunger.
Yeah. And it's funny that you say that because I remember being pre-op and watching videos and thinking that same thing as a person with a full stomach. Like there have been times in my life where I was really hungry for, whatever reason, but not many of them. And I remember thinking pre-op, I was like, I don't feel this hunger that all of these people say they felt before surgery. Because if I want to eat at all, like I go and eat, there wasn't time. And I do think in the US in Western society, I was talking to a friend who didn't grow up here and he was saying like, Americans are aren't okay with being hungry. He's like, it's okay to be a little bit hungry.
Yeah.
Like, that's not going to kill you. Like he used to do bodybuilding. So he's like, I'm just hungry, a little bit hungry all the time. And that's fine. And I was like, that's not something that we're really trained to be okay with, I guess.
So you did, because you said you had experienced the actual physical sensations of hunger. Do you have those physical sensations now?
I think so, but like it's very, it has to be really if I just go a pretty long time without eating, like which for me is like 4 hours or so because I am still eating a fairly small amount. And it's very faint. It's not as like that gnawing sensation I feel like I would get before surgery if I really went a while without eating. but I do eat fairly regularly, like on kind of a schedule. So it's pretty unusual that I even experience that true hunger.
And I'm actually in the beginning, because I probably started to feel hunger within a couple months post surgery, because I really have always, because I work from home, I have had to be less regimented in my eating than a lot of people are. Immediately post-op, you need to eat very regularly because you're getting so few calories in. And because of that, I think I was pretty pissed off when I was feeling hungry, like a few months afterwards, and none of my friends were. But now I really appreciate it, because I don't eat until I feel that. And it's okay to feel that. And I feel it. I mean, it's like a deep gnawing in my stomach, and I don't generally eat until I feel that.
Yeah.
And I think that's really helpful 5 years post-op, because, you know, it's telling me when my body needs it. So Linda takes it back, wants to know if your stomach makes lots of noises.
Not as much as I've heard a lot of people say that. It's funny. It's only about in the past month that I've noticed my stomach making more noises. It didn't really for like the first 11 months. And this past month, it does make some noises, but it's not super common for me, to be honest.
Okay. So you're a year post-op, you're absolutely gorgeous. And I'm sure you were absolutely gorgeous before weight loss surgery as well. Has losing weight impacted your confidence?
Yes and no. I mean, I was always a pretty confident and assertive person. And I do think a degree of that was sort of faked, but it was, you know, there. To others, it didn't seem fake. I would say that I do have an increased, so I don't have necessarily an increased confidence in just like general self-worth, but I would say I do have an increased confidence in my just physical appearance. And I do feel a little bit more comfortable and willing to kind of be visible and be seen.
We were talking, I think I can't remember, there have been so many of these shows in such a short period of time with Jo Beth, but about that idea of like at 300, 400 pounds, you're hugely visible, but yet it also provides this sense of invisibility. That's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
And sometimes and a couple people who were commenting on that show were talking about how they sort of miss that sense of not being noticed. Is that something that's impacted you?
Not yet, I would say. I do get like these weird random thoughts of like, I think like you take comfort in your size. When I was bigger, I was like, okay, well, my likelihood of being like abducted, right, is lower, because who's going to want to have to deal with like a 300-pound girl? So,
okay.
I think that's where my anxiety comes into play.
Now you're worried. Okay, you're anxious that you're going to be abducted because now they could carry you.
Yeah. But I don't think I've experienced any real sense of not wanting to be seen yet.
Yeah, I think I was probably like 2 years out before all of a sudden it started to hit me that people were like opening the door for me and smiling at me and talking to me in a way they hadn't. And it sort of pissed me off.
Yeah.
I have to say. So,
I've been thinking about that a lot lately. I mentioned this in a recent video of just, there are definitely differences that I can tell in my interactions with people. And I do wonder how much of it is being perceived as like, you know, a thinner, more attractive, more conventionally normal person, and how much of it is like my energy and openness.
I think it's both. I do think it's both. I agree. For sure. It is both. Because I like never made eye contact with people, hardly ever. And I was also pretty confident and, you know, had a very public facing senior executive position at work. And I mean, I didn't think it was something that sort of was holding me back, but I think it's both. I think it really is both of those things. So let me recognize the people who are here, who've come on. Wait, Less of Me VSG is here. Tom Cruise Mom Shoes is here. Okay, I think those are the new people. Let me hit, so I don't forget. Somebody asked earlier about what do you do to deal with the stall? And then I'll say my. And she's only 5 months post-op.
Yeah, I actually have not had a stall. So I've been really fortunate in that I've pretty consistently lost. I've had like a few small gains that were, you know, due to reasons. I generally would just say to push through the stall. I mean, you can also try just mixing it up, try playing with your macros to do something different than what you've done before.
That's what I was going to say. And I was in your same position. I pretty much lost weight pretty steadily until I stopped.
Yeah.
And, you know, I think they define a stall as like 2 months or something. I can't remember, something like that. 2 months without a weight loss, which is a long time.
Yeah.
And I think it's like, if I haven't lost weight in a week or two, it's a stall. But I followed a very similar eating plan as Grace did early post-op. I didn't really track my calories that much, but it was 80 grams of protein, 50 grams of carbs or less. But every once in a while, I would take a day where I would mix it up and I would eat more carbs. And it just sort of keeps your body guessing, because your body is like, what the hell are you doing to me? Particularly 5 months post-op.
Mm-hmm.
That's sort of been that was sort of my experience.
Yeah.
And then you get years and years out, and then you have to do keto because otherwise it's not happening. You can have none of the carbs. So, well, at least for some people. So is there anything you would do differently about your journey so far?
I don't know. It's hard to say. I mean, I definitely think that I'd say around like 8 months was when it got a little bit harder for me to stick to my like nutritional goals 100% of the time. And so I would maybe try to postpone that introduction of not nutritionally great things, but I'm just not sure how possible, you know, it's like, if that could have happened, I think I would have done it. You know, I think if I don't know that there's much I could have done to kind of prevent that. And generally speaking, I'm still pretty happy with how everything's going, but we'll see. Hindsight could be 2020 6 months from now.
Yeah, I mean, this is why I would suggest not going to a weight loss surgery conference until you're probably a year. That's what I say, a year out, because I went and all the people I fangirl over on YouTube were there, and I was hanging out with them, and they were doing all the things that you're not supposed to do. And so I was like, well, they're not dying. And I was 4 months post-op. So keep that fear about adding things into your diet as long as you possibly can.
Yeah.
My sense. Are there any like prime pieces of advice or like the most important things you think about now that have helped you be so successful?
I think I'm really glad that I started doing therapy like right away. I'm a fairly self-aware person. I was already aware of a lot of things, but I think, you know, there's just always stuff that you're masking with food. And for me, I started right when I would probably have started that sooner, honestly, because to get to a rapport, it took like 8 months before I feel like my therapist and I were really getting to the meat of things.
Yeah. And you don't know what you don't know. If you've been using food to medicate anxiety and depression, and which I think most of us are, when I went to the first like information program for weight loss surgery, and the doctor said, if you eat because you're not hungry, surgery isn't going to work for you. And I was sort of like, what the fuck are you talking about? Look at this room. Everybody in here eats because they're not hungry. Obviously. I sort of I understand what he was saying now in a different way than I did then. But I think so many of us use food as a coping mechanism, and until it's taken away, and I mean really taken away, because in the beginning, you can't even play around with it. Yeah. That you don't necessarily realize what's going on.
Yeah. And I think there's a lot of like intellectually knowing like the surgery is on your stomach, not your mind, but it's definitely completely different once you get it. Yeah. And there's only so much you can do to prepare because until it's actually gone, you know.
Yeah, that's sort of like what I felt. It's like we did all these months of stuff, but I couldn't know until I had it. I mean, I didn't know what it was going to feel like. I mean, what were your fears before surgery? Because we have some pre-op people who are in chat.
So I think I might be like the only person who wasn't afraid I wasn't going to lose the weight. I actually felt pretty confident. Like I'd just seen so many people go through this, and I knew I had enough weight to lose. Like I felt pretty confident that I would lose the weight. But I think, I mean, my biggest fear was I've never had surgery before. So just, you know, like I'm going to close my eyes and I never open them again kind of thing. And then just the, you know, like even then it was like the fear of regaining. Like I'd already lost the weight in my mind, but then
you're already worried about regaining it. Yeah.
Yeah. And just wondering like if you'll ever be satisfied and happy, just because I'd never been anything other than obese. This is the smallest, every day is the smallest I've ever been. And just not knowing kind of what to expect. You know, it's like all so unknown, and I'm not a big lover of the unknown. So just dealing with that every day.
Yeah, no, and I think even though I told myself I didn't believe this, I really thought that losing weight would not solve all my problems, but that was the big problem in my life. And then you lose the weight and those problems are still there, shockingly, which is kind of crazy. Okay, Wasting Downtime has a question for you. She says, do you follow any of the popular docs, Dr. Weiner, Dr. V, Dr. Berg?
I don't, no. I've never been I guess, celebrity doc fan.
I'll give you, I don't know who Dr. Berg is, but I'll give you my opinion on the other two. I have a strong opinion on both of these. And I have interviews with both of them on my channel. I'll actually post them in the link below. I've interviewed both Dr. Weiner and Dr. V on my channel. Dr. Weiner, love, 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 love. I think he really works with his patients on what happens after surgery. I don't necessarily, he has a more vegetarian based eating plan, which is not my plan, right. But he's so thoughtful and caring and concerned and research based about his patients. And Dr. V, my not so humble opinion, is an asshole who got fired from his bariatric practice. And he was such an asshole to me on the interview I did with him, which, you know, ticked me off a little bit, but it was what happened afterwards that really stuck with me. So many of his patients contacted me who were forced to see him because of insurance, and talked about how he shamed them and all this stuff that was really awful. So I am not a Dr. V fan. I am a Dr. Weiner fan, and I don't know who Dr. Berg.
Dr. Berg's a big keto person.
Oh, okay. So, yeah. No, I totally know, but he's not a weight loss surgery.
No.
Doctor. Right. Oh, I do know who Dr.
I was going to say, I was surprised that you would know who he was.
Yeah, no, I do, but I was thinking Dr. Weiner, Dr. I don't know. Yeah, no, I totally do know who he is now. Tom says he's 8 weeks post-op and 8 weeks post-op and doesn't enjoy food at the moment. That will probably pass.
Yeah, I know a lot of people go through the food apathy thing, which never happened. I still always think about food and want food.
You know, it's funny. My dad's a doctor, and he's also struggled with his weight his whole life. And I was talking to him today, and he said he was talking about, and I think even though he's 75, he still thinks that I wish he would have surgery, because I think it would be really good for him. And I think he's healthy otherwise, and he still works. But he said there was an article in Scientific America today that was talking about how you lose your cravings for the foods that made you fat after you have weight loss surgery. And what I realized was I just don't have the same relationship with food. Food isn't a driver for me the way it was before.
I feel like it still drives me, unfortunately. I mean, I do think that it is a different relationship, and I'm like continuously working on making it a different relationship. But I think it's like one of those, it's a default, it's still kind of a reflex to.
How are you working on making it a different relationship?
I mean, I try to not live for food and not use it as much. I mean, it's sort of hard to completely avoid the like food focused celebrations, but not using it as a reward for things, not thinking of it in terms of like you deserve this kind of thing. And really, yeah, trying not to associate it so much with positive emotions or any kind of emotion, trying to like take the emotionality out of food.
Is that something you work on with your therapist, or that's something you're doing independently?
Kind of both. We definitely talk about it, but it's more, work outside of that sessions. Yeah.
So Scotty's here. Hi, Scotty. I'm going to mail your package tomorrow. And they're talking about the Dr. V interview. If you want to watch it, it's the #1 viewed video on my channel. So if you go to my channel, it'll be the first one that pops up. But one of my other popular videos that I wanted to ask you about was one I did when I was probably, I don't know, maybe like 6 or 8 months post-op. And it was talking about, because I was somebody who really felt like my weight didn't hold me back particularly and was self-confident, etc. But I had started thinking about, what did this actually cost me? What did being super morbidly obese cost me? Mm-hmm. Do you have any thoughts on what it might have, I mean, you're still so young, but what it might have cost you?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely, there are a lot of things I think I convinced myself I didn't want because I didn't think I could have them because of my weight. And I think I'm starting to realize just how much I did that, or just sort of telling myself that this wasn't something I wanted anyway. So I didn't go for it. Like, there's a smaller but concrete example is when my family went parasailing. And I'm afraid of heights, so I kind of used that and told everyone I didn't want to do it because I thought that I would be over the weight limit. And it turned out I wasn't over the weight limit, and I ended up doing it. I remember my sister getting pissed at me, being like, this was my thing, you stole it, little sister stuff, because we were in high school. And just realizing, like, there are a lot of things like that, I think, over my life where I've sort of told myself I didn't want it and, like, tried to convince myself that it was not to do with my weight, but it ultimately kind of, that was the root of it.
I realized I have not asked this question on a single one of these episodes, because with most people, I sort of felt like I was continuing a conversation we already had. But what's your biggest NSV?
That's like a hard one. I mean, I would say like reversing the diabetes diagnosis was kind of the
yeah, but let's have a fun one. I mean, that is huge, but I want a fun one.
I mean, all the travel related ones, because travel is something that has always been really important to me, and I did it regardless, but just realizing how much easier it is. So not needing the extender, being able to walk for days at a time, 20,000 steps a day and not have any issues, being able to outwalk my thinner roommate because I'm actually pretty fit, Isn't
that fun? I am definitely more fit than my 22-year-old son, who probably weighs 150 pounds soaking wet.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting starting as I get to a, more healthier weight, that I still, I've been doing my best to maintain the muscle. I've been trying to maintain cardiovascular health and realizing that whole like health at any size thing, just because you're thin doesn't mean that you're healthy or that you're fit.
And I'm only throwing in my opinions on all these things because I don't know when I'll be back. So there's a lot of new people on here. But, you just brought up something that I think is one of the key things I would say to people just starting out, is the importance of maintaining your muscle mass in that first year post-op, because it's going to have such an impact on your regain. A lot of people just think cardio is the way to go. And I mean, actually, after you've had weight loss surgery and you're eating like, I don't know, I ate 400 calories probably for 4 or 5 months after weight loss surgery. It's not cardio. You need to make sure you get your protein, and you need to make sure you're doing strength training so you can maintain that muscle mass, because it's going to really impact, because this does really screw with your metabolism. And if you lose a lot of muscle mass, it's going to screw with it even more. So just my 2 cents.
Yeah, well, no, and I talked about that as well, because it is tempting. I know that if I didn't do as much strength training as I did, like, I would lose weight faster because I'd be losing muscle as well. And I know that there's that tempting of like, I just want to get down, but I also know that I don't want to do that because muscle is going to help me burn more on the long term. And it's going to give me the shape I want. It's going to.
Yeah. And I'll tell you, I mean, something, and this really impacted me early on because, okay, being on YouTube was the first time I'd ever heard people actually say how much they weighed. And then I'd actually say it. And I watch, you know, videos all day, every day. And it's like, I'm so-and-so and my highest weight and I weigh this now. And I got a sense of how people looked. But there are people who, and I mean, I took a year off from all the things. So I'm dealing with about 20 pounds of regain right now, but I've been back working out for like 6 months. But I took a year off, which screwed with my body shape. But before that, my friends who weighed 20 to 30 pounds less than me, I was a smaller size than they were, or I was the same size that they were.
Right.
So even though the scale may not be changing, you know, your body, I mean, the way your body looks is really important. So other than actually losing the weight and the diabetes, you know, losing the diabetes diagnosis, because that is super important. I shouldn't have made.
No.
But what are a couple of things that you're really proud of yourself about through this process?
Ooh, that's a hard one. I think I am really proud of working out. I don't enjoy working out that much. I'm not someone who like really loves it. I like it. I like how I feel when I do it. I don't really love the act of it. But I started working out in about March, 6-8 weeks after I had surgery. And since then I've worked out 2 to 4 times a week, every week, which is the longest in my life that I've ever done that. And so yeah, I'm pretty proud of myself for being able to stick to that. I ran a 5K in November. So that's the first time I'd ever done anything like that at all. And, you know, got a not terrible time. So that was fun.
And yeah, and for me, that's one of the things I'm most proud of is because I was always the kid who didn't want to do PE, who was not active, I literally could barely walk to my car when I had surgery. And I am like very strong and competitive. And growing up as like a fat kid who didn't do any of those things, it's really awesome.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about relationships.
Sure.
So how has that changed, or has it changed since you've lost weight?
So like romantic wise, it hasn't really changed, but I think my thoughts are starting to change. Like actions haven't really changed much, but yeah, that's something that it's never been a huge priority for me. And I don't think that is completely different, but I do think that I am more open to that possibility than I have before. And I think it's one of those things that it's not only weight, but I think that my weight kind of helped me really just close off that possibility. Mm-hmm. So I've definitely noticed thinking about it more frequently as like something I kind of want to maybe start dating. But I'm not quite there yet. And, yeah, my friends have all been really great about it. Everyone's been pretty supportive. My sister has been the hardest relationship.
That's the other relationship. Yeah, I was going to bring up if you wanted to talk about it, because I think a lot of us experience that, particularly with family members who also struggle.
Yeah, and we knew it was going to be an issue going into it. You know, we talk about it.
What's the age difference?
She's a year and a half younger than I am.
Okay.
And she was always, so she had weight issues, but not as severe as me. So I was always bigger than her. But in the past year or so, she's had some issues with just depression, and her weight has kind of increased. And then that sort of coincided with my weight decreasing. And, yeah, it's definitely been hard for her. I think especially in the past several months where I've gotten to a point where I look more like a normal person, you know? So I'm not really, people wouldn't see me and think like you're obese, even though technically I still am. So I think it's just hard, and she feels bad for feeling bad. You know, like she feels guilty, like, cause she wants me to be happy and to be successful and have everything I want. But she does struggle with kind of seeing me in her mind kind of get everything I want while she's not. But at the same time, she's not at a point where she's really willing to make any changes. And I can't get her there as much as I'd like to be able to do that for her. You know, until you're ready for it, you're not going to do anything.
So how much more weight are you thinking about losing, or do you want to lose?
I think it's really going to depend, because at this point, it's all sort of a guessing game. Normal BMI would be 164 for me. So that would be another 35 pounds. I think that's probably more than I want to lose realistically.
You post full body picture. I mean, you look incredible.
Yeah. I mean, at this point, the weight loss is really aesthetic, and not even aesthetic, but I know that plastics will be safer and I will get better results if I get lower. Which does actually make the motivation harder, because I didn't do it for like aesthetic reasons. And so really the weight I'm losing at this point is just to have kind of a better plastics experience. So
let's talk about, oh, sorry.
I'm just saying, I think maybe like 15 to 20 pounds is probably.
And know that, and I didn't believe this when I was at the stage that you were. It's so funny. All the stuff that people says is true, whether I believe it or not, is that you are going to have a little bounce back, no matter even if you're perfect. Because I had the bounce back when I was still very much on track. So I would say go, try
That's
to.
The thing is, I know I'm going to bounce back. If I could bounce back even just to this point,
Right. What kind of plastics are you thinking about?
I mean, I think I could benefit from having basically everything done. I've got loose skin on my arms, my thighs, my boobs, 360, my back. It's pretty much everywhere. My biggest priority is definitely my stomach, and I have loose skin. It's not just my pannus. It's like I had the underboob roll. So it's really just all over my stomach. So that's the thing that gives me the most mental issues and just physical issues. When I run, I have to wear Spanx because it's flopping all over the place.
And so when are you thinking about starting to look into that?
I'm thinking next winter. It's about a year from now is when I'm thinking. I think January, just due to my work is going to have paid family medical leave in January 2020. So I'm thinking financially that makes the most sense to do it then.
So, and what's great about, and they do have, I think WLSFA has been in the Pacific Northwest a few times. When you do go to those conferences, the plastic surgeons are all there and you can get a free consult, which is really great. So if you're interested in that and have a conference near you and you're interested in plastics, you should definitely do that. And they also usually give deals if you book a surgery within 30 days of being there.
Right.
But I probably would not, even though Dr. Katzen, who is like one of the premier, who I also have interviews with Dr. Katzen on the channel, if you guys are interested. I've talked to everybody.
Yeah.
But even though he's here local to me, I probably would not have gone for a consult outside of a weight loss surgery conference. And so it was really great to have that opportunity, but usually I have to sign up in advance. Yeah. And I have no idea where the conferences are this year. I have no clue because I'm sort of out of that loop. Do you know? Do you happen to know?
I think WLSFA is in Orlando this year. So like real inconvenient for me, but
yeah. What do you want to talk about that I haven't asked you? Because we're almost out of time.
I don't know. I feel like we've covered quite a lot.
We have covered a lot. What are you looking forward to in this coming year?
I think getting to a point where I'm thinking I'll probably hit maintenance sometime in this next year. So looking forward is an interesting term, I guess, just figuring that out. I'm someone who I know it's coming, and so it's sort of like looming on the horizon. And so I just sort of like want to get there so I can start tackling it. So I guess that's kind of the big thing, starting to plan out the plastics, because that does feel like kind of the next big thing, that especially because it involves so many other aspects of my life that I have to coordinate, time off of work and, recovery, travel.
Yeah. So Joyfulness wants to know if either of us are going to conferences this year. Well, are you planning on going into any conferences this year?
Not that I know of, but I'm not opposed to it. I'm not going to the WLSFA because I'm going to Orlando at a different time of this year. So I just can't swing Orlando twice from Seattle.
Obesity Help is usually in Southern California. It's only once since I've had surgery has it been somewhere else, and it was in North Carolina, which is where I'm from. So that was kind of cool.
Yeah.
But, I'm pretty much. I think I spoke at Obesity Help not this past year, but the year before, and I did a panel at WLSFA the year before that. And I think I've probably passed my. I may come by for cocktails or something if people are there, but I've sort of passed that conference time, and I like. What I found is those big groups of people, it's really hard to connect. And so I prefer to like take smaller trips with friends and stuff than the conferences. But I think they're really awesome if you are just starting out and are trying to build a community.
Yeah.
Support. Who are some of the people that you watch on YouTube, Grace?
I watch a ton of people. Less of Me VSG is on here. Mystery Guest 1948. She had the DS. All three of us kind of had our surgeries around the same time. Little Kansas Kitty had the RNY. Sleeve Girl 2018. Obviously, she had the sleeve, and she's been dealing with a lot of acid stuff post-op. So that's an interesting one. Jessie Cakes. She had a revision from lap band to VSG, and the surgeon didn't check the pregnancy test, so she was pregnant when. So she's pregnant now and she had the surgery.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think that's a unique story, and she's really great as well.
So I obviously need to touch base with people because I don't know who any of those people are.
And I also watch a lot of older, like Foodie Turnsleevey, Voodoo Queen. I watch you, watch Kitty Shrink. So kind of a mixture of people.
Yeah. Okay, well, I cannot believe that this hour has already passed.
Yeah.
So I'm going to ask you my naked truth inside the actor studio questions. But first, I'm going to say I want to thank everybody who's done this show over this month. I want to thank everybody who's joined on chat. It has been so much fun. I may periodically come back and do these. I may start making YouTube videos again because I'm doing... I don't want to say it's getting back on track, but I am serious about getting rid of this last 20 pounds. I may start making YouTube videos again. I'm not sure, but if not, I'm on Instagram as Bariatric Badass. You are on Instagram as Grace Gets Gastric, and there's a lot of WLS community on Instagram if you guys are interested. So thanks for tuning in this month. It's been really good to connect with old friends and new people. What's your favorite word?
I meant to look this up because I don't know, and you keep asking this, and I don't know what my favorite word is. I like all the words.
Okay, all the words. All the things as one word is my favorite word. What's your least favorite word?
Panties.
Okay. That goes with moist, which is often the least favorite word. You know what? And I was going to ask you, do you even know who, because she hasn't made videos in forever, do you even know who my friend Gracie is that I talk about who looks like you?
No.
I'm going to have to, afterwards, I'm going to send you, her videos aren't up anymore, but I'm going to send you her picture and you'll see how much you guys resemble each other. And you're not that, she's 33, so you aren't, okay. Anyway, I digress. What turns you on creatively, spiritually, or emotionally?
Passion.
What turns you off?
Hypocrisy and closed-mindedness.
What is your favorite curse word?
Fuck.
What sound or noise do you love?
The Sims music.
Okay. What sound or, I don't know what that is. How does it go?
Oh, I couldn't do it.
Okay. This is where you know I'm old. What sound or noise do you hate?
My alarm clock.
Yeah. What profession other than your own would you like to attempt?
Something within corporate social responsibility and sustainability.
Oh, well, that's what I do.
Oh, well, that's what I want to do someday.
Yeah, we should talk. I do it from the nonprofit, and I'm vice president of fundraising and operations for a nonprofit.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. What profession would you not like to do?
An actress.
If heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say when you arrive at the pearly gates?
You made others happy.
Yay. Okay, look at that. We ended right at 6 o'clock, right at an hour. How awesome is that?
Excellent.
Well, it was great to meet you.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thanks everybody for watching. I'll talk to you guys later.